Hi guys, July 26, 2023. Michelle Fixit. Laying down. I'm like still relatively overheated and I'm just like, and I'm bored. So instead of like randomly watching my videos or doing TikTok-y stuff or anything like that, I decided to make another video. Excuse me. So, for you guys, information on things. If you guys, where's that? Where's that bug? Ah, it's a bug. So if you guys didn't know, because I did the video of like the Biden criteria and stuff like that, and the chronic CSFs. So you have like Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. That's the EDS thing, and so if you are a hypermobile person and you meet the criteria for the Biden scale, you should try to get. It's another book. You should try to get some cardiovascular care, just to see because of Charlie's stuff, I've started to find out more about that because he's probably connective tissue disorder, and so you can have cardiovascular issues. And so they have a VEDS, which is vascular Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. And I always mess up how to say stuff because like I read far more than I watch. But a lot of the times with the EDS stuff, they'll sit there and say like, oh, if you don't have VEDS, which is like the more rare one, then you're not going to have any of the vascular issues. But then through my research and stuff, it turns out that like not only do you have like the weird thumb stuff and everything like that, but the connective tissue disorders create issues with like your heart. And so like my heart got to a point of almost having a dilation. I was borderline. And so your heart can get like really big, or your aortic valve can get really big, to the point of dilation or dissection or rupturing and all these different little things. And then it can go back to being like normalish. And it just like randomly depends on what your body's going through. So that's a connective tissue disorder too, with like, like a muscle, which is your heart. Your heart is a muscle. It's like a pump. And so that can be a big deal. And then the diagnostic criteria or the intervention criteria changes based on if you have a connective tissue disorder, because like an average heart, like it slowly gets bigger, and like connective tissues is just like whoosh, and so it can just randomly occur. And then Dr. Henderson had on one of his lectures that like he's done repairs for CSF leaks or what is it called? What was the surgery called? The brain surgery? Can't remember what it's called right now. I'm super overheated and I am trying to cool down and it's not really working. But anyways, he's done repairs on people and fixed them, and then all of a sudden like they'll have some, clot forming, which could lead to a stroke or something like that. And what he's finding is that there are people with connective tissue disorders and the Chiari malformation, they are hypercoagulators, which means that basically they clot on a faster rate. And so I find that to be interesting because logically that makes sense, because I don't know if he's talking to like cardiologists or not about stuff like that, but it would kind of make sense that things thicken up, and then if you have the heart that does tricks and stuff like that, then some of your veins and stuff might also balloon or, get bigger or get smaller, things like that. So this is one of those things where it's like, are all the doctors talking to each other? Because I'm pretty sure that if like a mechanic and a doctor, or like a few mechanics or mechanics, electricians, and like plumbers or like pipe fitters all got together with like their understanding of different things, and then like you had like some neurologists, nephrologists, cardiologists, internists, like people getting all of the whole big picture of everything together, they'd be like, oh man, we messed up. Like we totally messed up with some of this stuff. And so that's where I'm at with like managing my personal body with all of my stuff. And that's not even like throwing in the VOC stuff. Like there's so many things. Um, and it all kind of makes sense in my head, but man, oh man, I think as a populace, I think we messed it up with some of this stuff. So I'm just sitting here like thinking about it, and then like the poopy thing is that my 228 is still messed up, because this would be a great opportunity for me to look back on my screenshots and just share all this information with you guys, because I know I'm not the only one. I'm not the only weird little me out there. There wouldn't be a Dr. Henderson for the me's. And then he's like the me's for like the connective tissues, cranial cervical instability, chronic CSF leaks, Chiari malformations. Like that's a lot of things all in one, thing. And there is a doctor that is all about that. And then, the doctor, the POTS doctor in California. Well, he's not a POTS doctor. He's a chronic CSF leak doctor. But then like he put two and two together and started fixing POTS people. So it's just really frustrating because like the knowledge is there, and this is the age of information where like we all have access to an abundance of information. And everyone is like super hyper focusing on, I don't know why my voice just did that, super hyper focusing on very niche, whatever things, like super micro cultures, just this teeny tiny little speck right here. And they think that that's going to be like the end all be all for all their stuff. And it's kind of ironic because it's not. Like just because you found out that you really like baking bread, is that because your humidity levels are like super high or super low or super whatever? Or if you like gardening, is that because like it gets you out of your house because your house is kind of like poisoning you? I mean, like you find something and then you overly obsess about it, but then you're not looking at other things. Like, people could say that I'm guilty of the same thing, but I use all of my little micro things in a whole bunch of different ways. So like I like vehicles, so I like to work on them. I know the mechanics of them. It is functionally and fiscally good for my life for me to know about that stuff. The same with houses and HVAC, electrical, plumbing, roofing, tiling, flooring, drywall, plaster, because of the varying ages. But I also know the historical factors. Like I could walk into a house and be like, oh, this, the baseboards are from, the 60s or the 70s, and the way that this styling is wired, because it's a metal box, it's probably from this era. Or like, houses before the 40s are going to be stronger and a little bit better than houses in the 40s, even though like the 40s are newer than the 1900s and the stuff. Like they all have like their pros and their cons and stuff. But then, out of necessity, the medical stuff and the homeschooling stuff, and then the educational stuff and the special education because of, the previous daycare work, and the mommy cat with her awesomeness that she has in psychology, because I had to learn healthy coping mechanisms because I felt like an alien, like, trying to figure out how to properly acclimate to my environment. And so it's like I have tons and tons and tons of things that I'm all about, but I use them with practical applications like all the time. And a lot of people are not doing that. It's like they find their one little area and they assume that one little area is improving upon their lifestyle. But as it turns out, it's like if you expanded past that little micro area, then you would understand that like there are a lot more things out there that are going to better a lot of areas. So it's just really frustrating because I feel like I have all this knowledge, and I'm not trying to be boastful. I'm not trying to think that I know everything. I'm trying to share the knowledge. But because I don't have the fanciful papers, like people just, they either think that I'm a know-it-all, or they think that I'm too stupid to know the information, but I understand all these other very complicated, very complex things. So I don't know. I don't know how to make this make more sense to other people. And I don't know, maybe just like leave little teasers on pieces of information, and then if somebody ever like decides to start asking questions because they're actually interested in what I have to say, then I can assist people on a case-by-case basis. Because in the grand scale of things, like, I'm good. I figured out how to regulate my body. The only thing I have that I'm worried about is this liver stuff. And it's because, like, I had one doctor who's like, oh yeah, you're fine. Just don't even worry about it ever again. Like, completely forget that you have this big mass on your liver and, like, this little thing that is either, like, cancer or trying to pretend to be cancer or whatever. Just, like, completely ignore it for the rest of your life, which is just insane. Insane. That is, and he put it on paper. So, because of Mississippi stuff, I had to cancel that my other appointment. But then I kind of broke my own rule because I was going to see a gastroenterologist. And, like, for Charlie, if he has an issue, then I get him to the doctor of the organ. Like, and so I was going to see a gastroenterologist, which is, like, multiple organs, instead of seeing the hepatologist. So I'm going to schedule a hepatologist appointment. And once the hepatologist tells me that I'm good for good, which I don't believe they will, then I'll figure it out. And I also have to go on the little excursion of, like, reading up on what works for resolution for my particular issue that I have. But as far as my heart that does tricks and my brain that wants to sag and all the weird things, and the fact that, like, my face looks like so weird like this, I don't know how to, like, not look like I don't know, it's weird. But that's where I'm at. I want to help some people, but the people don't want to listen. So I'll just keep making my videos, and, like, every now and then I guess I'll talk about medical stuff and see if, like, somebody bites on it. But I'm gonna make sure that I'm good. And clearly I know some things because Baby Hulk went from 2nd percentile to 87th percentile. He's a chunk now, and I'm so excited about him being a little chunk and him going from being a dinosaur to being a Baby Hulk. And Isabel is awesome and amazing. And even Isabel had some weird stuff. She had Stevens-Johnson syndrome, which is, like, really a big deal and normally kind of fatal. So, you know, mommies do know best on certain things. And I've had tons and tons of trauma, and I'm not walking around, like, waving a trauma flag, being like, because I had an abusive spouse, and I have PTSD, and, like, woe is me, my life is over, and, like, everything is poopy, and I'll just never be happy ever again. I just refuse, mentally and cognitively, to do those things, because they don't do anything good for me. And I find healthy ways to cope with that stress and that trauma. I mean, I do still have some triggers, which are not good. But yeah, that's where I'm at. I'm just kind of laying here waiting to cool down, and then I have to go shopping for stuff, and clearly the post office thing with the IRS stuff is not going to happen today because it is like 7:18. So the post office is closed, and I'm going to call my husband cat and see if my husband cat has seen my daddy cat dog yet. And I don't know if Franklin Town's GFCI is happening today or not, because shopping trip, grabbing kittens, I might have to come back out again. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But that's it. And now I've talked too long, and I have to wait for this thing to time out. You guys are going to get so many weird, stupid things out of me. I can't help it. But clearly, like, posting videos every day is working out in my favor, because I'm getting, like, a follower a day, which is something. And I don't know if I'm going to have time to change out husband cat's radiator before I go to Wyoming. And hopefully he changed out the oil on the Trailblazer. And hopefully he's excited about the lawnmower that's going to be here, because I have a brand new John Deere lawnmower for my work that I did for Dad. And so husband cat gets to partake in that, and hopefully he doesn't blow it up before I get back. Husband cat, be nice in the new lawnmower. All right, bye.